Okay, we got 4 check marks. Let's get that Broncos Mile High Huddle Facebook group joining us as well, because we love those people over on Facebook. We got Twitch in here. We got Periscope, YouTube. We got one Facebook group. We're waiting for the last one, and there it is. All right. Welcome in, everybody. It is Tuesday night. Building the Broncos is here, 6 p.m. Mountain Time. I think we were a little bit late. Sorry, guys. I know that typically we are right at 6, but 6:03, 5:03 Pacific Time where I'm at. Carl, how you doing? Welcome into Building the Broncos.
I'm doing well, man. I just cruising along. We got our fair this week here in town, so gonna have a lot of fun with that. I get to go be a judge in a demo derby, and so that's gonna be pretty cool. I don't know. I actually have no clue. They just said, "Hey, could you come be a judge out in Wichita?" So that's what I'm gonna do. Yeah, Wichita.
Well, that sounds fun. That's good.
And yeah, how you been, man?
I'm good. I did make it to the top of Mount St. Helens, which was pretty darn awesome. Honestly, the sleep deprivation was probably as hard as the actual climb itself. But I mean, I've been doing hard hikes and I walk the dog at least 3 miles every day. So, I got my slow cardio in there, my fat burning cardio. It was really good. I'm excited, man. August is going to be packed. I have a lot of backpacking trips, hikes, and whatnot. Family coming too. Both my parents and the mother-in-law coming in August. So no sleep in August as well. But it's good. I'm really excited. Broncos are gearing up, and I'm excited to do this second part of what we started last week, naming the All-AFC West roster. We do this every offseason, and it's kind of fun. Last week, I don't know for anybody catching up, Carl and I almost had the exact same rosters. We did not talk to each other beforehand. It just happened that way. So sharing a brain there. We had a right tackle position different. But other than that, it was exactly the same. So, but we're talking before this show, I think the defense is going to be a little bit harder because some of these positions is more difficult. But before we get into that too much, guys, this is Tuesday night, which means it is Building the Broncos. We're here every Tuesday night that either of us are available, but sometimes we'll have somebody step in, substitute for us, but mainly it'll be Carl and I. You can find Carl and I on Twitter, Carl at Carl Dumler, MHH, and myself at Nick Kendell, MHH. Also, make sure you guys are following John Bawana Beast when you are over on Twitter as well. He's working behind the scenes here, making sure the show runs smoothly. The product is always a billion times better when he can do it, and I just enjoy it more as well. Follow John at John K MHH. Also, guys, follow our Twitter accounts at BTB Football Pod and at Mile High Huddle. Want to also shout out to our Facebook listeners. If you are joining us on Facebook today, first click the thumbs up or the heart react. We got Gary Leeds Palmer coming in with the heart. Gary always loves us. Gary, love you too. Andrew Baker with the heart in there. We got Daniel Height coming in with the like also. So shout out to the Facebook likes coming in here. Appreciate you guys. While you guys are over on Facebook, make sure you also join us, facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod and facebook.com/Mile High Huddle. Become a supporter, join in the conversation. Seriously, go on there, add us on Facebook, also on either of those groups, and let us know what you think of these All-AFC West rosters. Let us know yours. It's fun to have that kind of conversation. It's get out of the quarterback purgatory talk that we find ourselves in this time of year, and the Broncos have been the last 5 years. So a lot of fun there to get out of that. If you guys are joining us today on YouTube, please subscribe, like, and share. It's the number 2 thing you can do to support this show outside of, the superstar, super sticker, super chats. But doing so is completely free and extremely helpful. So appreciate you guys a heck of a lot if you are doing that. And let's get into the chats here. Let's say hello to everybody here. We got Stu Meat in here with the adorable kid rocking the Bronco hat. So he said from social distancing, be careful out there, folks. Be safe, be smart. Take care of you. You know what's best for you. Take care of you and your family. R. Powell coming in here. The Beast from the Rockies. Ooh, I like that one. How about the Manning brothers? I'm definitely watching ESPN2 this year. God, I can't believe we didn't talk about Scott and I didn't talk about that this morning. It's going to be so fun. I really hope that. Do you remember that ESPN thing where they're like touring the ESPN facilities and like they're like kicking each other's butt? I hope it's some of that, like behind the scenes. Like we need to have some old school ESPN commercials and stuff where there's bickering and stuff. I don't have a brother, but I have a sister, and we definitely were at each other like that all the time.
Yep.
But we got Mo Ron coming in here. Hola, ¿cómo estás? Bien. I said that when I came in here too. So Echo in here. R. Powell, here we go. Good to see you, R. Powell. We got David in the house. What's up, guys? Go Broncos. Next week is the week. And Aaron Rodgers rumors, anybody? We'll try to avoid those unless, there's a super chat or you guys are really begging for it. We'll get in. Petro Rodriguez coming here. I know he turned down a huge contract. I don't know if that was today that he turned it down or it came out today. So we'll see. Travis Weber coming in here. Travis, hope you're doing well. Good to see you. He says, now I want me some Watson. I'm waiting to see what happens there with everything else going on with him. But very talented quarterback. And my God, if the Broncos had a quarterback of Watson's talent, this would be a team that was legitimately contending for the Super Bowl this year. It just is what it is. Greg Smith in here. Good evening, fellas. Greg, good to see you. That's be great to see. We got Andrew Baker in the house. Good to see you, Andrew. What's up, gang? MHH for life. Go, Nick, Carl, Beast. Heck yeah. Thank you very much, Andrew. Chase Wellner in the house also. He's coming for my title, Carl, of the one of the best memers in Broncos country, because Chase puts out some bangers. I gotta call you out, Chase. Game, respect, game. Here we go, BTB. And we're going here. Oh, Gary Leeds Palmer. Heck yeah, Gary. We love you so much. A 25-week streak for Gary Leeds Palmer. My God. Gary, you're on fire. That's incredible. Go Broncos, go Nick and Carl. Gary, we love you, man. That's incredible. I don't even know what to say. And we got also Mr. Boggins coming in here. I was lucky enough to join him this week. Mr. Boggins and I got to meet up sometime and have some adult beverages. I know there's a Bronco bar pretty close to me here in Seattle. So we'll be hitting up that fairly soon. And hopefully they have some good IPAs on tap, because I got the mustache wax going. I'm wearing all plaid, that kind of thing. I got to really lean into this Pacific Northwest vibes here. But Mr. Boggins says, Locked On NFL Draft had 6 Broncos on the All-AFC West team. Do you mean the whole team or the just the defense? I think he probably means the defense.
I think, yes, he gives the list later. Simmons, go. Fuller, Darby, Johnson, Vaughn, and Chubb.
Wow. Well, I gotta say, I'm really trying not to be a Broncos homer here, and there were some that I thought about for this Broncos team, but I gotta say there are 3 guys on this list that I don't have on mine. So we'll see when we get there. I'm excited about some of these guys, and we'll talk about it, no doubt. But I don't have all these guys, so that's pretty darn interesting. And Carl, let's get into it. Would you rather start in the secondary, or would you rather start in the defensive front?
Well, let's start in the trenches, because I think we're actually going to probably agree a little bit more in the trenches than maybe the secondary.
And can we lay out also the format for everybody as well, like the position? So last week we had 13 positions listed for that all division team. We're going to do 13 again this week, just to balance it, leaning more so towards the secondary, because that's just the NFL today, right? You play more dime than you do base. Nobody fact check me on that one, because I'm just talking out my butt on that one, but it's trending that way.
Yeah.
But we got Mike S in the house. What's up, Broncos country? We got Chase Wellner still talking in here. How you doing, Chase? Tyron Matthew, R. Powell's in the house talking about PS2. Carl, before we get going, or actually I'll say what it is first. 2 edges, 3 interior defensive linemen, 2 linebackers, 3 cornerbacks, 2 safeties, and a defensive back. So if you wanted to throw in another safety or another cornerback, with how a lot of guys also play a lot of different things, I just added that defensive back one in there. Did you have any qualms about that before we get going? Should I have had another linebacker in there, taken off a defensive back or something like that?
No, I mean, like I said, just with the way the game's going, I think if you're looking at players that make the biggest impacts, and especially AFC West, there's, you and I talked about it before the show, linebackers, it's a pretty average group. Mm-hmm. And I'd rather not take an all-star player off of this list for an average player that I'm struggling to even want to put on the list.
Yeah. Yep, I agree with you completely. I did debate a little bit that 3rd interior defensive lineman, maybe even like it'd be more valuable to have a 3rd edge on there. But we're talking all-pro team. Enough of these teams run 3-4 base that I was going to include it on there. But let's get into it. And I say let's start with the interior defensive lineman first, just because we'll work our way out from that. And we had 3 here. I'm going to guess off the bat we have 1 that's definitely universal, and that would be Chris Jones of the Kansas City Chiefs. Arguably the 2nd best interior defensive lineman in football, only behind that of Aaron Donald. I think there's an argument for DeForest Buckner as well. Maybe somebody else in the chat can get at us in that as well if there's somebody I'm forgetting there. But Chris Jones, Carl, this was the draft before you and I joined forces here, but Chris Jones had my heart. That's who I really wanted the Broncos to draft in the first round of that 2016 draft. They ended up taking Paxton Lynch instead. Is what it is. I'm taking the shot on the quarterback. I get it. I loved Chris Jones. I really wanted to pair that with Von Miller at the time. And I thought Chris Jones was just a special blend of length, power, burst, et cetera, et cetera. He's special. Gosh darn the Chiefs for getting him because I love him. He's also added me on Twitter before where I said, oh, man, Chris Jones, come join the Broncos. He's like, nah, I'm good, fam. Chris Jones, that cuts deep, buddy. You don't got to do that to me.
I know.
But Chris Jones, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Easily. I mean, like I said, top 3, at worst, top 5 interior defensive lineman football. And that's being honestly very critical at that point. I mean, if all Bronco fans are being honest, he just is. He's up there. Great pass rusher, good against the run, just fits today's NFL perfect. And one of the few players on that Chiefs defense you have to account for on every single play. He can destroy a game by himself. So he's easily the best interior defensive lineman in the AFC West. It's not even close.
Yeah, we got, he's a star. Speaking of stars, Here comes Justin with the stars over on Facebook. Thank you very much, Justin. We appreciate that. The Chiefs, they got a good one there. They paid him a heck of a lot. Obviously, how do you feel about Jones and his cap? You don't let stars walk. And I would say that Chris Jones is a star. And if you do, that's just bad for business, bad for the locker room also. So you make it work, right? Like if you have to kind of be thin somewhere else, you keep your stars unless they have off the field issues that make them not worth it. But Chris Jones, superstar. I got no issue here. Next one, Carl, for me, interior defensive lineman, my only Las Vegas Raider on this whole team, Jonathan Hankins. The Broncos a couple years ago tried really hard to bring in Jonathan Hankins. No disrespect to Mike Purcell, who they did wind up with, but the Broncos approached him and tried to bring him in. The Raiders poached him instead. I think he's one of the more underrated one technique nose tackles in the game. They're paying him a pretty penny, so it's not like the best value. But he's really good at what he's asked to do. And I feel like I had to have him on my list here. So I have Jonathan Hankins as the only Raider. What a pitiful defense. God, they're just terrible, but Hankins is at least above average.
So I do have one Raider, but it's not him.
I'm going to be curious to see who it is.
Yes. And this is where I went back and forth on this defensive line. Do I want like that true defense built where you got the pass rushers like Chris Jones and then like a nose tackle? Or do I just want the 3 best that I consider the interior? And so I decided just to go with the 3 best and just kind of sort it out from there. But I'll put Shelby Harris here. I mean, You and I have talked about it many times. A couple years ago, I would not have paid Shelby Harris big money because, yes, he had a ton of knockdown passes, but he was average against the run, average as an actual pass rusher other than the knockdowns. Like that was his one elite skill, and that's not enough for me to want to go pay the guy. This last year, he really took it up a notch, actually getting into the backfield, making plays, did well against the run. Just became an all-around defensive player. Glad the Broncos got him signed to a long-term contract, and I just think he's the second best interior player in the AFC West.
Yeah, I have Shelby Harris listed as well as my 3rd interior defensive lineman, so he's right up there. Is there anybody that potentially obviously you have your 3rd one here, so let's get to it. But first, Brian Greenfield coming in over on YouTube. Thank you very much, Brian, for the $5 super. You're consistently in here supporting us, and just want to let you know that means a heck of a lot to us. I know that it's the dead season, although we are approaching training camp just next week, so things will be really taking off here. So that'll be great. But Brian's been consistent, and we see you and appreciate you, Brian, for just showing us so much love. So we'll show it back. But Carl, your 3rd interior defensive lineman. So we do have 2 of the 3 the same. But you said you didn't have Jonathan Hankins. So our first disagreement here, your 3rd defensive lineman.
So I decided to do a little projection on this one.
Are you going to say a guy that you liked a lot coming out?
I'm going to say Draymond Jones, actually.
Oh, wow. Draymond. Okay. The floor is yours, man. I'm in.
Okay. Well, it just, again, I value pass rush from the interior probably more than ability to stop the run. Just because it's such a unique skill. Like you can find run stuffers left and right. That's never been a problem. Finding a guy that can actually get after the quarterback, that can win one-on-one battles. Really, the best quarterbacks in the NFL, they don't struggle as much with edge rushers. Like they can manipulate them. They can make, I think back to that 2012 game against the Ravens. And I hate to bring that up. I know everybody doesn't want to talk about it. PTSD. But they pretty much just said, hey, Joe Flacco, step up in the pocket. They don't have an interior pass rush. Don't let the edge guys beat you. And so that's all he did the entire game, just stepped up into a clean pocket. And so And Steve, yes, thank you for the stars. Really appreciate it. I just want to make sure we acknowledge all of that because you guys are just really the best. You guys are the true stars here. But no, I just think Draymond Jones is that next guy that's just going to burst onto the scene. Third year, this is where you really see those interior guys take off. And I just think he is set up for a huge success, especially if the edge guys stay healthy. He's going to get those one-on-one opportunities. And, Shelby Harris is going to get a lot of attention as well. He's going to have some chances just to blow up teams this year. And I think he's going to put up some pretty big stats.
Man, that's a great one. I like that you called him out. I thought maybe for a second you were leaning into one of your pre-draft crushes in Jerry Tillery over on the Los Angeles Chargers. But yeah, I think Draymond could have a fantastic year. He's got something though that I feel like we're not talking about. I mean, it's because we're just so shrouded in the quarterback conversation. But Draymond Jones, back-to-back years missing games because of injury. He needs to stay healthy this year. That's a big one. And I feel like those injuries also not only caused him to lose time, but he wasn't as impactful when he came back to that. So we got Chase coming in here saying when Glasgow was on the pod, shout out to Glasgow for that. He said that Draymond has been a handful in drills. That's what you want to hear. I mean, Vic Fangio, I know there's like somebody on the podcast or the show in the community a couple weeks ago saying like, oh man, Vic Fangio needs to blitz more. Why isn't he blitzing? Vic doesn't want to blitz and teams don't want to blitz. Honestly, like some guys do, but I think today's NFL, you got to be able to win with 4. Pass rush with 4. That's what we saw in the Super Bowl. Everybody's like talking about the linebackers. That no doubt the Tampa Bay linebackers are great. I saw 4 pass rushers that were absolutely just beating the absolute brakes off the Chiefs offensive line, and that caused everything to crater for that Chiefs offense. So if you can get after the, go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to get to this. Mr. Boggins saying this is where they just threw Chubb into the interior and had Bosa and Vaughn on the edge. That's cheating. And Nick and I are not about cheating. So as much as I really wanted to get Chubb onto this group, when we only got 2 edges, that's a tough place to get to.
Let's get into it because I have Chubb making it. I have, I'll just list both my edges here. I have Bradley Chubb and Joey Bosa. I don't have Von Miller on my All-AFC West team. And I know that's controversial. Hello, Jay. How you doing there? But I think Chubb is an ascending player, and Von Miller is a guy he's still great, but I do not know if he is what he used to be. And also, he's coming off of a pretty serious injury as well. I know that Chubb's been dealing with an injury rehab as well, but I feel like right now the most valuable, like if there was a complete redraft of this division, Joey Bosa would be picked before either Chubb or Vaughn, given his age and how good he's been. So I have to put Bosa on there. And I'm doing a little bit. You did projection for Jones. I'm projecting for Chubb. I think that Chubb's a guy who's a rising star. It hurts me tremendously to leave Vaughn off this list, but it's just a for fun list, right? I don't know. I wanted to be different. I had a hard time leaving Vaughn off, but I went with Chubb instead.
Okay. I went with Vaughn. I do think this can be a very elite year for him. He's one of those guys. It seems like after an injury, he comes back very, very strong. So I'm just not too worried about him. And I mean, he's always been a physical specimen.
Yeah,
I really do trust that he's going to have a great season. And like I said, if the front 4 can stay healthy, all of them are going to have some opportunities throughout the year just to go make some really big plays. And I don't know who's going to end up being the guy that has the most sacks. I think Bradley Chubb could end up with the most sacks on the team.
Yeah,
because he is going to get more one-on-one opportunities than Von Miller, I think. But Travis. It was very, very close between those 2.
Yeah, we'll get into the edges a little bit more here. I want to hear some Joey Bosa talk because he is pretty darn talented. But Travis Tarbox in the house saying, showed up a little late, fellas, but I'll go back and watch what I missed. Man, that's commitment, Travis. Thank you so much. Stars as well. And Denver Broncos for life. Also, we had Andrew Baker coming in the house here. Thank you so much, Andrew Baker. Andrew's also leaving the Heart React on Facebook. Don't think I didn't see that, Andrew. We appreciate that. He says, cheers, Nick and Carl. Oh, cheers. I got my Iowa beer shirt on. Adult beverages. Cheers, Nick and Carl. Enjoying grilling and swimming with my boys. But who is going to be the leader on offense? Possibly Bowles is the vet who stepped up the game. It seems like right now the Broncos team themselves are rolling out Melvin Gordon a lot. who I know is a veteran player on this team, played pretty well also, or paid pretty well, which oftentimes, that talks in the locker room. Another one is Graham Glasgow, also another guy that they keep putting out in front of the media, like pointing out, like, this is the guy who's getting a platform because the credentials, because of the level of play, et cetera, a known quantity as well. So I'd probably lean into Glasgow and Gordon right now with emerging leaders with Cortland Sutton and Garrett Bowles. Those would be my guys.
The other guy they've rolled out a decent number of times this year is Noah Fant.
Noah Fant too, yes.
I think he's well spoken, so I think that's part of it. Is he does well in front of the media. You like to stick a guy that can talk well, and so they got some decent veterans. I think that's the nice thing about the offense is they got a decent mix of a few veterans to kind of lead the way and a lot of young guys to kind of push everybody to go out there and prove themselves. So hopefully that pays off this year. We'll see how that offense gels as the season goes.
Yeah, no, that's very true. And we got a question from Don Olson saying, hey guys, I've often wondered if a badass linebacker like Karl Mecklenburg, drafted in the 12th round, could even make it in the modern NFL. Karl Mecklenburg wore many hats, not like Randy Gradishar level of hats, but linebacker is a position where it's great to have athleticism, but instincts, technique, awareness, the ability to process information is more important than those actual athletic tools. So I think that Mecklenburg would definitely have been able to play in today's NFL, right? Like there's no way he's that much lesser of an athlete than Josie Jewell or Alexander Johnson, right? Like neither of those guys are lighting up the stat sheet at the combine, although Josie Jewell had an incredible 3-cone. Who would have saw that coming? But that's an interesting one.
Well, and I would add, back then, the NFL didn't always appreciate guys that were multiple. Or today's NFL, they really love guys that are multiple, that you can move around the formation and have them win in many different ways. So I think he'd do just fine. And like I said, his instincts were off the charts. It didn't matter what position you played him at. He was a star. Yeah. There's very few guys that can actually go out there and do that, even back then in those days for the NFL.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Curtis Everett, what's up, boys? Hope you're doing well. Curtis, thank you for the shout out. So the edge rushers, I left off Vaughn, you left off Chubb. We both had Bosa. Would you agree with me that Bosa is probably the number one edge in this division right now, unfortunately, as much as it pains me to say? And edge rusher is a position where I'd rather have two great ones than one that's like a little bit better, right? So I'd like the combo of Vaughn and Chubb blows the Chargers out of the water now that they have lost Ingram, and who knows what's going on at the other edge rusher position in Uchenna Nwosu, I think off the top of my head. But Bosa, both on our list, really good number 3 overall pick from Ohio State a few years ago. If he can stay healthy, that's the big one, but that's true for all these edge rushers, I guess.
Right.
But Joey Bosa, what do you think?
I mean, one of the best run defending edges in the NFL. The Bosa brothers both have some of the best technique in football. Their ability to win a hand fight and just win with that kind of power and technique, it's amazing to watch. Yeah. You know, they're not going to be the benders around the edge. They're not going to be Von Miller or the knees about touching the ground kind of thing, but they can win in ways that he would be such a nice compliment to Von Miller. Like if those two could have been together somehow, that's what you're hoping Bradley Chubb can become, because Bradley Chubb's not a bender around the edge either. But like I said, just that technique. They come into the game with intelligence. They know how to win against multiple tackles. And like I said, they're always in the right position at the right time, especially in the run game. So it's fun to watch them. I hate that they're on a rival team, but it is what it is. Like I said, you recognize greatness.
Yeah. No, man, absolutely. That's right. So, and also just trying to say, we're not biased here. So is what it is. Travis coming in saying it'll be great to watch Josie Jewell again against Saquon Barkley. Like the last time they lit each other up during the Iowa Penn State game. I was at that game. Absolutely ripped my heart out, but it was really fun to watch Saquon Barkley go at it. He's a special talent. Michael's in the house. Good evening, Nick and Carl, and go Broncos. Good to see you, Michael. Hope you're doing well. And so yeah, Carl, we have so far 2 differences. It really did pain me to leave Von Miller off the list. It's no disrespect to Von, but just with the injury coming off, the age, I leaned into the younger guys here. I really hope I'm wrong. Next, probably the least interesting position, given the lack of talent for all of it, is probably the linebacker group. And I'm going to give you the floor first. Linebackers, you can list both or you can list one of them at a time.
All right, I'll start off with Josie Jewell. Of the two Broncos, yeah, I went with the Iowa boy. I know a lot of people lean towards Alexander Johnson for the Broncos because he has made some of the highlight plays. But to me, Josie Jewell was the more consistent guy. You throw in his leadership that he brings on the field, that he is the guy that's calling the plays, getting people in the right position. And you see there's just so many times because of his lack of athleticism, he has to have great instincts to go out there and win. And there was very few moments where he was out of position last year, where he guessed wrong. And that's just something that I really value in my linebackers. Like you said, it just instincts trump athleticism. You still need some athleticism. Like there's guys that have incredible instincts that just can't make it to the play. But there's been so many great athletes that can't make it in the NFL. They could do it in college because they could see ball, go hit ball. NFL, you got to be a step ahead. Otherwise, the guy's gone. A Saquon Barkley, he's going to make you look silly if you're a step behind. And so that's why I have Josie Jewell even over Alexander Johnson for for this all AFC West team.
Yeah, and we got Joe Sawyer saying AFC West linebacker position is trash. It's kind of the antithesis of the tight end position, right? Like we had two tight ends, and neither of us could list Noah Fant, even though in any other division, he would be the guy. In most divisions, he'd be the number one, honestly, or an argument for number one with Travis Kelce and Darren Waller. Not the case in the AFC West right now. Maybe that'll change here soon because Noah Fant's incredible, or an incredible talent, but just is what it is right now. Andrew Morrow coming into the $10 super over on YouTube. Thank you very much, Andrew. And he says, "Hey, gents, at Disney with the fam, Disneyland or Disney World? You got the difference there. You got to let us know so we can find you." No, I'm just kidding. And join you. No, I'm mind blowing their minds and saying big shout out to the Bruce family and Amelia Morrow. Enjoy Disney World and go Broncos. All right. Well, big shout out to the Bruce family and Amelia Morrow. Enjoy Disney World. There's the answer. And go Broncos. Glad I could blow their minds. And Andrew, thank you for taking your family out to create some memories, right? Like you can buy stuff, you can hold on to stuff, but I'm very much of the opinion that you go out there, you make some memories, and whatever it costs you, just create some fun times so that way you can look back on them. So shout out to you for being a good dad.
My parents and my sisters and my niece and my neighbors just got back from Disney World. Just this they went last week. So they had a decent time. It's kind of one of those, you hear from the kids, they had a great time. You hear from the parents, they're like, I waited 2 hours for every single ride. So, but yeah, it's always, like I said, it's about the memories. Those kids will never forget it. And the family, it's just always kind of, when you look back a year later, especially, you're always going, man, I'm glad we did that.
Yep, absolutely. So, Carl, I wrote down Alexander Johnson's name first. I deleted it and put Josie Jewell because I wanted to be different, because I thought you'd put Alexander Johnson or somebody would, but you put down Josie Jewell and so did I. This is not because Jewell is a true amazing player at the linebacking position. I do think he's very underrated for the Broncos, from the Broncos fans. No problem, Andrew. Thank you, and go have fun with your family. Thanks for joining us, but go have some fun, bud. But Josie Jewell, I do have him listed here. I did go back and forth. There was a couple other linebackers I considered here as well that I did not list on mine. Corey Littleton, the Raiders paid him big money. He was so bad last year, though, so I didn't add him. Nick Kwiatkowski, I was very close to writing him as well. I didn't, so I didn't have to pronounce his name. Here I am. He was bad last year also. But that's just kind of the state of the linebackers in the AFC West. So the other guy I did have Josie Jewell. Alexander Johnson's right in there. I wrote Kenneth Murray. I was not a big fan of Kenneth Murray as a first-round draft pick. He played okay last year. But he's very much a dog chasing cars out there far too often. So he'll be his second year this year. He brings a lot as far as limiting yards after the catch on those like swing passes or screens, because he can close space in a hurry, kind of like what we saw with the Buccaneers last year. Got a lot of work to do, because I feel like at Oklahoma and somewhat with the Chargers last year, his play both took out some big plays, but also resulted in big plays because he's not disciplined. But that's just kind of where the AFC West is with linebackers. So I do have Kenneth Murray listed here.
Okay. Well, I went with the guy that you struggled to pronounce, Nick Kwiatkowski. Hopefully I said that halfway right. I'm not going to say it again. We'll just call him Nick.
Nick K.
There we go. Pretty good name there. But no, I went with him mostly because I wanted a guy that offered at least a little bit of coverage.
Yeah.
He's not great against the run. I mean, all these guys, you could look at their game and say, okay, they're decent in this area, terrible in this area. And I decided I'm going to lean towards a guy that can halfway do some coverage. I think last year, if I looked right, he only gave up like 200 yards in coverage in his direction.
Yeah.
Quarterback rating of like 82, which for linebackers is actually pretty good.
Yeah.
I think he was one of the better coverage linebackers in all the AFC West, if not the best. So that's why I kind of lean that direction. Again, it's you and I talk. I messaged you before all this, and I said, what position are you struggling with the most to figure out? And we both said linebacker.
Yeah.
It's a lot of average guys that you're just kind of figuring out what do you want on the field.
Yeah. It's not really true difference makers right now there, but that's kind of true for the linebacking position across the NFL, right? It just feels that way looking at it, especially. And do you think there's some selection bias here with the linebackers as well? Because, they're bad. They're having to go up against Austin Eckler. They're having to go up against Noah Fant. They're having to go up against Darren Waller. They're having to go up against Travis Kelce. Like, are they actually that bad? Or is it just it's that much harder to play linebacker in the AFC West? Probably both, but like I think it's a fair thing to ponder.
Yeah, I mean, like we knew Josie Jewell was never going to be like top end kind of linebacker. That his ceiling was going to be middle of the pack kind of linebacker, and nicely he's actually hitting his ceiling. You know, most guys don't hit quite their ceiling. Alexander Johnson, I mean, we've known his strengths and weaknesses, that he has some really good strengths, his ability to blitz up the middle, his ability to have some big hits. He's also decent in zone coverage because he's big, he's long, he can go make a few plays that way. But he's limited because not the greatest athlete, not the greatest change of direction. At times does guess the wrong direction to go. And you can do that for every AFC West linebacker, that you can see those weaknesses show up game in, game out. It doesn't matter if they're playing the Chiefs or if they're playing the Giants, the Cowboys, whoever it may be, they're going to show those weaknesses in each of those games. So like I said, I think it's a little bit of both. Their numbers get a little bit blown up just because of the talent they're going against, but they're still not great.
Yeah. We got a linebacker question here for the Broncos specifically from Chase Wellner. Shout out to Chase. Is Baron Browning more of a off-ball linebacker, we'll call it, instead of inside linebacker, an off-ball linebacker or an edge in your opinions? Eric Trickle thinks he's going to be an off-ball linebacker. I think he could do both, and this season's going to probably be telling for what direction he goes. I think ideally they'd like him to play off-ball linebacker, but that takes a little bit more on the instincts and technique than the edge position, where you can just kind of fire off, right? Like there obviously is technique to the edge rushing position. There's technique to every position, but I would say that the off-ball linebacker is far more of a heady position and a processing speed position, and that's something that Browning struggled with at Ohio State. Probably a guy who maybe was asked to wear too many hats for that Ohio State defense that maybe stunted his development. So Browning is one I think that his play is going to determine that. I think he could succeed at either, but I think he's going to have to fail at the off-ball linebacker position before he is relegated to the edge position.
Yeah, I think if you wanted him to be successful his rookie year, I'd put him at edge. I think that's where he'd be better because, like you said, it's not about the instincts as much. It's more that athleticism can actually shine through.
Yep.
And I do think instincts is his lowest thing right now. I mean, he showed it in college. He struggled with that at times. He was out of position. There were some games where it's just like, where are you, man? You're not even on screen. It was hard to find him a couple times because he went the opposite direction. He fell for the misdirection or whatever it may be. And you can't have that as your off-ball linebacker because they're just going to target him the entire game. But if I'm looking long-term, especially for the Broncos, I'm sitting there saying, I want to see him succeed at off-ball linebacker. And so I'm trying to get him as much up to speed in that area as possible.
Yep. That's, I agree with you there. And just kind of a caveat here while we're talking about this is obviously the Broncos had a good draft class. We think we're excited about a lot of these guys. I have no expectations for 2021 for any of these guys other than Patrick Surtain II, Javonte Williams. The rest of them, I think about them as like, do not open until Christmas labeled on them. Quinn Miners, Baron Browning, Caden Stearns, Jamar Johnson, et cetera, et cetera. If you can get anything from them this season, awesome. If I don't see them play a single snap on offense or defense, if they're relegated to special teams this year, well, at least something we'll talk about a year from now. Like, oh, we don't know. Same with McTelvin and Najim. Does that make them a bust, or they're completely write them off? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So guys, just be patient for those guys like Browning this year, who's already missed a big chunk of the offseason program because of an injury. If you don't see him this year besides special teams, be patient. You got 4 years to figure out what he's doing.
I would be surprised, other than injury, to see any of those other guys for any kind of significant snaps. It's hard for me to see them beating the guys that are ahead of them.
And I think that answers KB82's question, kind of. Which of the young linebackers has the best chance to start by the end of the year? I guess I would have to say Strnad because it's the second year in the scheme. He's also not dealing with the injury. But I don't think that outside of injury, you're going to see Strnad this year. I mean, you will see him. I think there'll be some sub-package stuff where they're taking one of the linebackers off the field for Strnad, but outright displacing Jewell or Johnson, I don't think that's happening this season. I think that's much more. I think Jewell and Johnson are both free agents at the end of this year. Right? Is that
yes?
Correct there? So the question is more so, which of those two guys potentially gets a contract from the Broncos, and who starts opposite him between Strnad and Browning? I think that's the much more interesting question there, rather than which young linebacker displaces Johnson or Jewell, because I don't see that happening this year outside of injury.
And speaking of young guys, Kane Dawson. Do you guys ever think back and regret Denver not drafting Devin Bush instead of trading back and drafting Fant?
No.
that was perfect timing. You're right. Devin Bush has not been good.
He's been okay. He's been fine. But
okay, for a top 10 pick though.
Yeah.
When I'm thinking top 10, I'm thinking you're going to become a top 10 player at your position. I mean, that's why I have a little bit of issue with Patrick Surtain being taken for the Broncos. Do I see him becoming a top 5, top 7 cornerback in football? Maybe. I mean, he can get there. I struggle a little bit with that. But Devin Bush, he has not made it into the top 10 linebackers in football. He looks lost on a lot of plays. He misses a lot of tackles. He's a little bit smaller against the run, where you see him again get kind of washed out of some plays. He's not been great. Where Noah Fant, I think he could be one of the biggest ascending players of the season. If he gets any kind of like average quarterback play, Noah Fant could become a top 5 tight end in football this year.
Yep. I think if you're trading up in the top 10, you're not trading up for a quarterback, you better damn well be trading up for a position of value. And trading up for the least valuable position on the defensive side of the ball in linebacker, I'm just going to say that outright, unless you want to get real specific and say nose tackle. But I'm not. I'm roping interior defensive linemen together. But the linebacker, that guy's got to be pretty darn special to work out. And Devin Bush, another one where athleticism does not correlate to coverage ability, because linebacker is such a heady base position, processing speed, awareness, instincts. You can be the greatest athlete ever. I mean, Boss Bailey, Champ Bailey's brother, is like one of the best athletes to ever play the game of football. I mean, he just like his pro day is like talked about still in legend, just what a freak athlete he was. Didn't see the game very well, did not process the field, did not process information that well in front of him. Ended up being a guy who just kicked around the league for a while. So, that's one of those positions. You got to have it. We'll see. Not that Devin Bush doesn't have it, but he's not there yet for sure. Ken Booker coming in. Ken, how you doing? He says, "What's up, fellas? Hot take. Kyle Fuller will be the number 1 cornerback in the division." Well, this is a great transition here because we should talk a little bit of cornerbacks. Here we have 3 cornerbacks each. Carl, I'll go first. I do have Kyle Fuller written down. Mm-hmm. I know that he is a 1-year deal. So what does that mean for the Broncos long-term of the position? I don't know. And I think I've said a couple times that, Kyle Fuller is 30 years old. I think he's only 29 years old, or he's going to be 29. So he's still relatively young. That cliff is coming, the cliff for the cornerback position, but not there yet. And for this year specifically, I think that he's going to be good this year. Kyle Fuller. Yep. How well he plays, he's playing for a bigger salary cap next year because of the condensed salary cap. So hoping to get paid after this. Maybe that won't be with the Broncos because they like what they have youth-wise or want to spend money elsewhere. But I think it'd be hard not to add Kyle Fuller to this top 3 cornerbacks in the division right now.
Right. Well, especially you look at the last time he was paired with Vic Fangio. He was an all-pro cornerback. And he's a couple years older, but at the same time, he's still young enough that you can see that he can turn that on. And it's not going to take him as long to learn this defense or what they're going to ask of him by any means. And of course, coaching staff knowing exactly how to use him. All that's going to play to him having a very good season. Throw in, it's nice where this year the Broncos really don't have to move cornerbacks around. Like, he doesn't have to go against the number one wide receiver every single play. You can have some kind of rotation there a little bit, or you can say, hey, you're just going to stay on this side of the field. Whatever you want to do, you can kind of do at the secondary. They can get really, really creative. So yes, I have Fuller on my list as my number one cornerback in the division. Do you have another Bronco?
I do not. Ooh. I do not have another Bronco at the cornerback position. Cornerback was actually another one that I had a hard time with, but that was just because there were so many options to pick from. And I wanted to highlight some guys that I thought, to be contrarian, because we were boring last week with our list, and also because I really didn't want to be a homer. So I have more Broncos on this list than any other team. Granted, probably should be with the Broncos defense this year. But and also I didn't, Joe Sawyer coming in here. Callahan has a number one slot. I didn't specify slot versus non-slot in this drill. So I don't have Callahan either. But I guess I'll go with a real dark horse here. And this is, I feel like we forgot about this, but this is somebody that the Broncos apparently approached in the offseason and were interested in bringing in. And he went back to his old team and signed a big contract. And that's Mike Davis, cornerback from the Los Angeles Chargers. Probably one of the more slept on cornerbacks in football. Probably one of the most physical cornerbacks in football also. And I feel like he is not very well appreciated for how talented he is. I think he's the best cornerback on that Chargers team. No disrespect to Chris Harris Jr., but just where he's at in his career right now. And I think Davis, maybe the most underappreciated defensive player in the entire division. So wanted to give Mike Davis a shout out. He got paid like it too. Okay.
I don't have him on my list. I do have number 2, Bryce Callahan.
Okay.
I know some people are saying slot, but even on the outside last year, he looked good.
Yeah.
Again, he's right back in the system. He looked like a top 10 cornerback last year in football, even for his size. I mean, some of the players he was going against, he had no problem staying with them. If he can stay healthy for an entire season, I mean, that's a big question mark with him. But when he's actually on the field, he is easily one of the top cornerbacks. Like I said, at least top 15 in the NFL.
Injuries concern me with him, but he's very talented, versatile. He's going to start this year, and the Broncos hopefully don't have an injury there, but if they do, they can lean on that depth. My next cornerback, another guy that, again, I'm trying to be contrarian here. I thought about Bryce Callahan. I thought about Ronald Darby, but I didn't want to have, twice as many Broncos as any other division on here, because then somebody would call homerism. Also, I didn't want to be the exact same as you, so I thought maybe I'd put somebody out here that had less of a chance of being on your list. I went with Legeria Snead as my next cornerback. He was the best rookie cornerback in football last season. I loved him coming out of Louisiana Tech. He played cornerback. They moved him to safety. I don't know why Louisiana Tech did that. He moved back to cornerback for the Chiefs last year. He was awesome. God darn it, Chiefs. Gosh darn it, Chiefs. But I found another late round gem. And I think he had to be given a shout out there. Now that means I'm leaving off Ronald Darby. That means I'm leaving off Bryce Callahan. It means I'm leaving off Chris Harris Jr. Like I said, it's the opposite of the linebacker room. There's a lot of good cornerbacks in this division. And they deserve shout outs, but I wanted to be a little bit different. It doesn't look by your reaction that I am different. And add Legeria Snead.
Yeah. See, even when you try to be different, we're the same. No, you're right. I think he was one of the more underrated Chiefs last year. Nobody was talking about him, but really, of all the rookie cornerbacks, he was the best last season.
By far. CJ Henderson, Jeffrey Okudah, both those guys on bad defenses, bad teams. But Legeria Snead was really, really good.
Yes, he was. And so you're right. The Chiefs got themselves another good player that they probably shouldn't have, that went a lot later than he should have.
Cheap, cost-controlled too.
Yep, exactly. And he's set up for a lot of success moving forward. I do wonder a little bit, since they lost some of their secondary players, how he's going to look this season when he's maybe given a little bit more responsibility than he did last season. But still, like I said, I loved his play, did really well, made that defense halfway work, even though they didn't have as much talent as they did even the year before that. So he's going to be kind of that next ascending player for them.
100%. Well, I'm glad we were very different on the cornerback position, but that's fun. It's just there's a lot of talent in the cornerback room this year. We got Andrew Baker coming back in saying Simmons is going to rally that secondary and ball hawk it. Maybe not no-fly zone 2.0, but close enough. Hopefully so, Andrew Baker. That would be ideal. If the Broncos, like ESPN said, the Broncos had 32 out of 32 ranked quarterback rooms, you're going to need the no-fly zone 2.0 to make the playoffs, let alone contend for a Super Bowl. So, we'll see. But that would be ideal. Got to stay healthy first and got to see them on the field, right? It's all projection. And we're talking right now. Let's see what the final product looks like when they're all out there on the field executing this pretty complicated scheme for Vic Fangio also. So, but thank you very much for the comment, Andrew. You're great. Now we have two safeties and a defensive back. I did go with a third safety on that one as well, but a lot of these safeties are very versatile and they can do a lot of different things. And every single one of these safeties I picked are very different types also. So I'm excited about that. Number one, best safety in the division, Justin Simmons. He is perfect for this scheme, the pre-snap too high that can go to cover 1, cover 3 kind of looks, or dropping down, or playing over the slot. And because of that, he's just so perfect for this Vic Fangio scheme. Hands on the ball pretty well, despite the bad field position, despite the offense turning over the ball like crazy. So I love Justin Simmons. I loved him going into that draft. I'm glad he's been as good as he has. I don't think any of us foresaw this, right? I think we coming out of that 2018 draft. Was it 2017, 2018? I think 2017 draft. We're like, yeah, Justin Simmons is our favorite pick of that class because we liked him so much. That game, Boston College versus Notre Dame, where he picked off Notre Dame's quarterback like 3 or 4 times. I mean, God, I think Notre Dame was wearing those ugly green uniforms too. Ugh, Notre Dame. But Justin Simmons, definitely on the list. Too talented. Got to be out there.
I think he was 2016 because he had his 4-year contract, then a year on the franchise tag, and now heading into this season.
I think you're right. Yep. I think you're right. Yep.
But you're right. No, that was, we talked about it on the show, how much we love that pick. Thought he would turn into a star. It took him a couple years. He kind of, it does. I think he's a great example of just what you can see in some of the development of a player. And, you get to see some of the signs of good things moving forward and how he's growing as a player. And now has become a true star, all pro kind of talent. And thankfully, looking at the franchise tag this year, I'm so glad they got a deal done before they even had to worry about that. I hate when I have, like with the Broncos with Von Miller or Demaryius Thomas, where they wait till the very last day. Like, I understand when there's a deadline, things to get worked out. But I just wish they could come together and just say, hey, we're not leaving this room until a deal is done, and just get it done. But I know that's not how it works. That's why I probably couldn't be a GM, because I would just be like, all right, you know what? I'm done. You guys aren't going to talk to me. I'm not going to talk to you. But anyway, yes, Justin Simmons, easy pick, probably the easiest pick on this list, other than Chris Jones.
Yeah.
I would say. And maybe this next safety as well. Tyrann Mateo, easy pick.
Yep. Is it Mateo or Mateo?
I looked it up. It's Mateo.
Honey Badger. You don't
Mateo.
care.
Mateo. Sorry.
Mateo.
Yep. My bad.
Mateo.
Yep. But he, another versatile player. I hate that he plays so well for the Chiefs. Yeah. I really do. It just, like I said, he's that player that you can do whatever you want. He really has helped that defense to at least be above average. I think if you were missing him, that defense would absolutely fall apart. Like, he's one of those few players that if you look at that Chiefs team, you cannot lose him. You can't lose Mahomes, can't lose Tyreek Hill, can't lose Travis Kelce, can't lose Chris Jones, and now can't lose Tyrann as well. I mean, those are the 5 players. You lose one of those, it really drops their chances of making the Super Bowl again by a lot.
Yeah, I agree with you a lot. He's very versatile. He's a good player. He's an energy player for them as well. And hard not to list him on here. He's also one that is as good playing too high, and he can come down and be your slot also. Like, super versatile player. Really talented. I thought the Chiefs, when they paid him that big deal, especially after that, didn't he have a second ACL injury with the Cardinals? And it was like, how's he going to be? They paid him that big contract. yeah, hats off to them. They've made a good deal. That was a good contract to bring him in, and I think it changed their defense a lot. Changes the culture on that defense also. I guess Frank Clark to balance that out the other way. Anyway, moving on. Now we have that final defensive back position. I kind of gave it as a wild card here. Safety, nickel, wide corner, whatever. I went with Darwin James. I know that he's had injuries, and I know you said, Nick, if you put on Darwin James, I swear to God, I'll kill you. It's not exactly what you said. I'm paraphrasing. But Darwin is he's too talented to leave off of here, and he's also extremely versatile. I think he's the number one tight end stopping player in the NFL also. So if I'm looking to play like a box safety type, some roles, or like go dime package where I have a dime backer out there, Darwin James is my dude in that regard. So I'm going Darwin as that sixth defensive back, figuring out ways to get him on the field. Then he's just way too talented not to list.
Yeah. And I didn't want to, yes, the E is silent on Travis Kelce.
But his brother says it's Kelsey.
Okay. Yeah. His own teammates say he's never told us that it wasn't Kelsey.
I think Travis Kelsey was just teasing us.
I feel like so.
Until we talk about it right now, because his own brother, because his brother is the Eagles center, right? Jason Kelsey, and he's like, no, it's Kelsey. I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, so yeah, we'll stick with Kelsey because it just feels weird to say Kelsey at this point. Like, dude, if you hadn't corrected people until like your 12th season in the NFL, that's on you. Yeah. It's gonna your name has been changed now. And I love this question here since you're talking about him. KB82 saying, how close behind is a relatively healthy Derwin James to Justin Simmons?
It's a tough question. It's like comparing Randy Moss to Wes Welker, right? Like they play wide receiver, but their skill set and what they're asked to do is very different. Maybe not to that extent, but Derwin James be ideal in a cover 3 heavy scheme where he can be closer to the box. He can be blitzing sometimes. Not that he can't play single high or too deep, but that's not his best role, where Justin Simmons much better in the back half or the middle of the field area, not totally close to the line of scrimmage where Derwin James makes his money. So that's what I lean on there for, as far as what's the difference there. They're different. They're different types of safeties.
I'm with you, and I did put Derwin James on my list.
Good.
I thought about leaving him off, but you're right. When he is healthy, he is one of the top 10 players in the entire division.
Yeah.
I mean, just that, like I said, the versatility, what he brings to the table, that tight end killer that is so rare in the NFL. I mean, there's just not many safeties, linebackers, anybody that you could look at them and say, that's the guy I want one-on-one with the tight end.
Yeah.
Derwin James, I could feel okay with it. He's still going to lose some, but anybody's going to lose against a great tight end. And I did want to say, Rich, I'm glad that you're safe. Having the 2 tornadoes hit close to you, but stay safe out there. This is always kind of crazy weather time. I think about each week I've come on here this summer and said, man, we just had a crazy storm come through. So everybody stay safe out there. Don't go out there and watch those tornadoes. Take pictures, get in the basement.
I'm from Iowa, so I'm not going to tell you to do anything like that. It's your freedom. If you want to grab a bush of light and sit in a lawn chair and watch the tornado, God bless.
All right.
We got Zebulon coming in here saying Patrick Surtain is going to take that tight end stopper label, #PS2. And then John working over on Facebook as well, double timing. Personally, would love to see if you wore an N64 controller for just as a necklace. Did you see that PS2 necklace for Patrick Surtain?
Yep.
Great. I got to say a little bit better than Jerry Jeudy wearing the Star of David, saying like, why are you wearing that? He's like, because they call me Jew.
Yeah. That was bad.
Yep. Yeah. That's at the combine. Yeah. John's like, are you serious? Yeah. That was at the combine. I was like, you got a Star of David necklace. What's going on? Oh, because my teammates call me Jew for Judy.
Yeah. And then I think a week later he had to do an apology and be like, oh, I didn't really understand what I was saying and doing. And it was kind of a whole mess.
It was just ignorant. I don't know. Doesn't mean it's okay.
Yeah,
but either way, the PS2 controller, very funny there. But John says, and John's okay with it. It's just weird, right? It's like, all right, you're kind of an oddball, Jerry Jeudy. But Carl, so what do you have here for your final? When I think Rich asked, what scheme are we running here? We're trying to run an amorphous scheme. Is that the word? Where we listed 13 players here. So we're trying to hit every single scheme. It's an all AFC West defense. We're not like drafting our own team here and talking scheme. Like, we're just trying to get the best players on here that somewhat fit the roles that we are assigning them to. So not really a scheme. And also it's 13 players. So you can multiple schemes.
Right. I can take my 2 linebackers off the field and just keep, well, what would that be? 7 secondary players on the field.
There you go. And if I have to run 4-3 base, Darwin James, you're my will. Let's do it, baby. That's
there you go.
Honestly, be probably one of the best wills in football.
Probably.
If you had to. So, Carl, let's do the breakdown here as far as what you had positional-wise for breakdowns. I know that I tried to be more strict on the Broncos. It's kind of like when I don't have any kids, but I picture it as like, you're the coach and your kid is on the team and you are harder on your kid because you don't want to be like doing favoritism. Right. So it's like, I'm just going to be, a little bit harder, a little bit stricter for my own kid because I don't want everyone else to think that I'm being biased or favored to them. That's kind of what I'm doing with the Broncos here.
Okay.
So I only have 5 Broncos listed only. They're the number 1 team with 5 players listed. The Chargers actually came in with 4. So maybe this Chargers team, I don't know if you saw Pro Football Focus just did a list of the top teams set up for future success. Chargers were one of those 4.
Mm-hmm.
God damn it. So the Chargers had 4 here. The Chiefs had 3. And the Raiders had 1 because the Raiders defense is sad and pathetic. They're just so bad.
So I had 7 Broncos.
Man.
I know. Homer alert.
Woo woo.
3 Chiefs, 2 Chargers, 1 Raider.
Okay.
And I feel like I was being generous to the Raiders because I felt like I can't have them with 0, right?
I mean, I almost did, but I thought Hankins actually deserved the listing here. I think he's the best nose tackle in this division, and there's kind of a drop off after Chris Jones. Granted, that's true because Chris Jones is so talented. So running it down here real quick before we get out of here, Carl, you can list your team as well, but I'll go with mine. Edge rusher Bradley Chubb, interior defensive lineman Chris Jones, interior defensive lineman Jonathan Hankins, interior defensive lineman Shelby Harris, edge rusher Joey Bosa, off-ball linebacker Kenneth Murray, off-ball linebacker Josie Jewell, cornerback Kyle Fuller, cornerback Mike Davis, cornerback Legeria Snead, safety Justin Simmons, safety Tyrann Mateo, and I give you a hard time, I definitely mispronounced that, and my defensive back, last guy, Darwin James.
All right, well, I got Von Miller and Joey Bosa at the edge, Chris Jones, Shelby Harris, and Draymond Jones for the interior defensive line, Josie Jewell, Nick Kwiatkowski for the linebacker position, cornerbacks Kyle Fuller, Bryce Callahan, Legeria Snead, safeties Justin Simmons and Tyrann Mateo, and the defensive back Derwin James. And like I said, I mean, if I'm looking at a team that's being pretty multiple, I especially like those safeties because they can do multiple things. I like the cornerbacks because, again, guys that can kind of move in and out on a few of them. And linebackers, that one position that you're looking at going, oh my gosh, that's where – if we had like divisions playing against each other, that's where they're going to attack. Yep. And I feel like that would be the one area that they would lose big time.
Very true. Very true. Well, guys, coming up in an hour, 6 o'clock here Pacific time, 7 o'clock Mountain time. I think it's time for us to get on out of here. Thank you very much for everybody joining us. This has been Building the Broncos. It's every Tuesday night at 6 o'clock Mountain time. We'll be here again next Tuesday as well. Same time, same place. So we'll see you guys then. You guys can follow Carl and myself on Twitter. Carl at Carl Dumler MHH and myself at Nick Kendell MHH. Also shout out to John for running the podcast behind the scenes here, helping us do this. You can follow him, Buana Beast, at John K MHH. Also over on Twitter, guys, follow us at BTB Football Pod and at Mile High Huddle. For you Facebook people coming in, I see that call of action for calling in for the likes, the hearts, the cares. They came in 35. That's a good number for a dead season. So thank you very much for doing that. While you guys are over on Facebook, if you haven't dropped the like or the heart yet, also make sure you join us at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod or facebook.com/Mile High Huddle. And also, guys, our number one way to get eyeballs on here, make sure that if you're joining us on YouTube today, subscribe, like, and share. Doing that can help us reach new audience members. You know, it's the season is about to start. So if we can get that push right now, where you guys, if you're enjoying the content, not just this show, but all the shows, if you guys can go ahead and hit the like button there, like, subscribe, and share over on YouTube, that can help us so much, get new people and bring them into the fold. Like, this is a great community, and sometimes it's not always the case where communities get too big and sometimes get a little toxic, but I don't think we've hit that yet here in the Mile High Huddle community. So let's get some more people in here, bring them into the fold, and let's have some fun and let's have a great season. But thank you guys very much for joining us. Carl, what are your plans the rest of the night?
Get a little supper, and then since I told you I got a 190-mile hike that I got to start training for, I should probably do a little exercise, get into a little shape, and then just kind of get some things organized for tomorrow. Got my daughter. We're going to be hanging out all day, and so want to get a few crafts going and a few ideas, and I'll probably try to get that a little organized tonight. What about you, man?
Yeah, I was gonna pull up that thing that I just had up there, but it's gone. Oh no. Well, if John, why don't you pull that back up? I'm sorry I did that. Oh, and here we go. Thank you guys for being super supporters. Gary Leeds Palmer, Justin Buelke, Steve Lazuski, Brian Greenfield, Mr. Boggins, Andrew Baker, Andrew Morrow. Thank you guys very much for joining us today and contributing to the show. That means a heck of a lot for us, a lot to us. I'm probably just going to cook dinner and take the dog on another walk. Like I said, I got a backpacking trip coming up in a couple weeks, and I'm just trying to get those steps in. Yeah, so I'm in as good a shape as possible. It's only going to be like 30 miles, but it's like 5,000 feet of elevation gain or something like that. So it'll be a lot. It'll be a good time, but it'll be a lot. So we'll have fun. And everybody, thank you guys for joining us so much tonight. This has been Building the Broncos. We'll see you guys again next Tuesday. But for now, signing off. Go Broncos.